Hey guys, it's Dan from Sunday Night Games. I'm going to get started on the fourth part of my tutorial series. Right now, I've just got two maps in my game. There's a kind of overworld type map, and then you can kind of teleport over to this, the little miniature dungeon. And then you can, walk back out next to the tree. Obviously, it's not much of a game right now, so I'm going to spend a little time kind of building an actual kind of overworld in tiled. And so this is, I'm probably going to, kind of skip forward on some of this building process, but just to kind of show you guys what I'm working on. And then I'm going to attempt to integrate kind of an overworld map. So when you press like start or maybe select, it'll get rid of this scene and open a new scene of your map and kind of show you on the map where you are. So that should be pretty cool. That's mostly probably what I'm going to be doing in this video. So stick around and kind of see how I build that. So I will be using this pack from itch.io. I think I might have purchased like I think I purchased all three of these. So there's like a bundle. But obviously, so this is kind of the point where my game and whatever game you're building will probably deviate a lot. So this is just how I'm building my own maps. You guys, if you're building your own action adventure game, you probably have a different idea of how you want it to look. So I will just be using these packs that I bought. Later on, I'll use some of these other packs as well. If you guys want to, buy the same pack, they're pretty good packs. Feel free to do that. But I will be using those. So yeah, like I said, it's kind of up to you how you want to do it. But I'm going to go ahead and set those up in tiled and kind of go through, starting to build, I think, one big kind of overworld map. So yeah, here I am in tiled, and something cool about tiled is besides maps, you can actually make worlds as well, and it kind of displays all of your, tile maps kind of together, and you can rearrange them and stuff. But to do that, it's a little complicated. You have to create a world, and then you have to actually load the world. So first, I'm going to make a map. So you can't see the world menu unless I think you have a map open. So I'm going to say File, New Map. And I'm just going to keep it kind of the same size. So it's kind of like four, Game Boy screens. I think that's pretty good. I mean, you could do just 10 by, and actually these are 8 by 8 pixels. So yeah, I think I'm gonna do 8 by 8 pixels for the map because of the way that the tile set's going to work. So actually, I'm going to change this to 40 by 36. So it's going to still be 4 screens. So just check your, tile size. For that dungeon one, I think I did 16 by 16 because these walls and everything just kind of worked a lot better. 16 by 16. But I'm going to do 8 by 8 for this tile set I've got. I'm going to press OK. So it makes a new map. It's just a blank map. And I'm just going to go ahead and save this map. Let's do File, Save As, and I can call it like Action 1. I'll call it Village 1. I don't have a huge kind of overworld plan yet, so I'll just say Village 1, press Save. So now I've got this. And the way I do my world is first I have to go to World right here, the little drop down, and then you got New World and Load World. So first you have to make a new world, then you have to load the world. So New World, and I'm going to call this Action 1 World. I'll just call World 1. That sounds pretty good. Save that world. So it's not loaded yet, so I do have to actually load the world. But after you do the world, you should get these options here with the little world tool and stuff like that. But I'm going to go world and then load world. And then I'm going to load that actual world that I just made, which I feel like it should do that anyway. But then I'm going to add the current map to the loaded world. So do that. And then I'm going to add this Action 1 Village 1 to World, Action 1 World. So I'll do that. And now I'm going to make another map. So I'll do File, New Map. And I'll do the same size, And then I've got this new map. I'm going to do File, Save As. I think you've got to save it first. I'll call this, yeah, like Forest 1 or something like that. Just save that. And then I'm also going to do the same thing. So I'm going to add it to, add Forest 1 to Action 1, World 1. And so now you saw that little gray thing over here. So if I zoom out, this is actually the two maps. And so now they're connected. So it'll be a lot nicer. So when we start building the, building the world, and you can actually move these as well. So if you wanted, if you want like some kind of offset, or if you wanted this one to actually be underneath or to the side or whatever, you can kind of do that. But now as I build it, I'll be able to see what's right next to it. So it kind of matches up, and it'll just be, I think, a lot easier. So yeah, that's kind of how worlds work. You just have to go new world, and then make sure you do load world. So it actually makes the world, loaded. And then you can unload the world later if you need to. I guess you can also save the world, like a superhero, save the world. But we'll probably do that later. So yeah, I'm going to make a new tile set. I'm going to file new tile set. So yeah, I'm going to choose that Oracle one I showed you guys earlier, press open. And for tile width and tile height, it actually is going to be 8 by 8, even though it says 16 by 16 for this one. And I'm just going to do save as. I just call it GB Oracle's environment 16 by 16. And then there we go. So if I look at this tile map here, first thing I need to do is go to terrain set, little button right there. And then I should see I can add a terrain. So I'm going to click on that. And I will do a new corner set. And I'm going to look at a good thing to do for the corner set. So you can see we've got lots of different things on here. Like these are kind of like hedges or something like that. Yeah, maybe I will kind of do this right here and just kind of draw around this one right here. And then for the top of the hedges, I'm going to make a new color. I went over this in more detail in one of the previous videos. I think maybe the one right before this. They kind of explained how these, little terrains and everything work. So if you want to check that out, if you've never used tile before, it might be a good idea. So I'm going to just kind of do this green one here, and yeah, actually all around here. I think maybe get rid of that one. Where's the erase button? Erase terrain. There we go. Okay. I need to click back on that one. And so basically this red one is going to be a transition to a different tile. And then this green one is going to be a transition to some of these tiles. So I could just kind of fill in some of these tiles. So any tile that I want to kind of automatically be up here, I think by default, it'll just kind of randomly choose. Okay, let's just kind of see what this looks like on the actual map. So I'm going to do File, Save to actually save this tile set. And then I'm going to come back to one of these. And since it's just like a hedge, I'll just try to add it to the village right here. Maybe I'll say the village is to the left of the forest. That should be fine. And to add this on here, it's actually an unnamed set. So maybe I'll go back and I'll just name this one Oracle's set. That looks pretty good. And then I will go back. Oh, I'm going to save that. Save. Go back to that village. And then I've got these two sets. I've got Oracle set, and I've got red and green. So if I use, I think it's this tool, the terrain brush. So that's what you want to use for the terrain. So I've got this one selected. If I hold control, it'll, all right. So if I have the red one selected and I hold control, it doesn't actually have anything valid to connect to. But if I do the green one and hold control, then you can see it gives me that flower option right there. So as I draw those flowers, it's just automatically kind of filling in. And I'm holding control to actually draw those. And then if I go back to this one, now it's got flowers. So it actually can connect with the flowers. So if I just kind of start drawing there, you can see now I'm like kind of drawing this terrain. And it looks like there's no interior corners. So you can see it's getting all kind of messed up. So if I go back to the Oracle's thing right there, I believe the inside corners are going to be these right here. Or these, I guess these are flowery as well. So what I'd want to do is, yeah, I would do the green ones kind of around these. So that's what I would do with this green one right here. And then I would do the red one on the inside. So basically this would be the inside corner. And I can do them for the other ones as well. So maybe I'll just do that really quick. Okay, and then for the red one, let's just say we want, maybe these for the kind of normal terrain. Yeah, just kind of some various things. Just be careful about using too many tiles. It's usually not a problem with things like this, but the Game Boy is limited, so you might not want to have 50 different variations of each kind of thing right here. So yeah, that looks pretty good. So now if I save this, I'm going to save, go back to village. So now if I start drawing it, okay, I'm kind of doing that red one right there. So I think the red one is the actual, just the ground. So that's why it's kind of going away. If I go back to green, so now it's actually painting the, kind of bushes, or maybe it's a ledge or something like that. It's kind of up to you. So that's just kind of an example of one thing I could do on this terrain, just kind of building a quick little terrain right there. And I will also be purchasing this sprite pack. Obviously, you guys don't have to. It just has little houses on it and stuff. And it looks pretty nice. It's got some other cool things that I might try, like the inventory type screen. So yeah, it looks pretty nice. I'm going to go ahead and purchase it. Feel free to if you want to follow along, but that's another tile set I'm going to be using as I kind of build my levels here. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of do a little voiceover. The next 10 minutes or so of this video, maybe 8 minutes, are just going to be me building my world. So I ended up building 9 levels or 9 maps, and each map is, like kind of 2x2 Game Boy screens. So I guess across it'd be like 6 screens across and 6 screens high. So ultimately, like, I made 36 screens, but each of these maps is going to be kind of 4 screens total, if that makes sense. So I started out trying to trying to figure out how to do the tiling with the trees. I bet I could figure it out if I just spent more time on it. And I kind of wish I had spent more time on it, because maybe I could have figured it out and it would have saved me a lot of time. But I ultimately was like, I'll just wing it and just kind of build all the trees manually, which, it wasn't that hard. It did get a little bit annoying at some points. So just kind of as a general layout, I kind of wanted to build a little village area and then a little forest area. So I started out by building the forest kind of on the right, kind of put some nice things in it. And then I ended up kind of making, I think this is going to be like the starter house, kind of where you start out, like in Link to the Past, or kind of on a ledge and your house is up there. I ended up taking those bushes out, the bushes right next to the house, because I think I want to add them as interactable. You can use the sword to slash the bushes away, which would be pretty cool. and I just built the paths. I probably could have done better on the paths too, with the tiling, but ultimately it worked good enough. And I did struggle a little bit with just accidentally putting stuff on the wrong layer and stuff like that. And right here is kind of the process of adding a map to the world. It's kind of weird. Sometimes you just have to reload the map for it to actually kick in. But what I did was I just saved a copy. So you can just save a copy of one of the maps, and I mean, you could just do a new map and just add it to the world. That might be, the easiest thing to do. But I just, because I kind of wanted to use kind of some of the same layouts for some of the maps, I just did, save as new map name, and then, adding that new map to the world. And sometimes, like I said, you have to close it and just open up all the maps you want to use, and then add them back in, and then you just move it kind of into place. And I kind of wanted, a little smaller section of village over there with just like one house kind of at the little, almost like peninsula or something like that. And you can see me struggling with this stupid paths right here. Um, Pretty good times. And, I used that other, I think it was the Oracles one or Zelda style, maybe, because that one had houses on it, which was pretty nice. Yeah, the Zelda style. I think I told you guys about that one. Um, because yeah, I did want to do like a village area, and it has some other cool stuff in it as well. But obviously, use whatever tile maps that you actually want to use. And yeah, ultimately, I wasn't thinking at the time, but we do have that HUD. The little HUD at the bottom of the screen, and depending on where you put your HUD, it might affect you differently. But I just realized that every bottom bottom row basically of 8 by 8 tiles, I'm not going to be able to see it in the game because the HUD is literally covering that bottom that bottom row of tiles. And this is when I just took it into GB Studio just to kind of, walk around and make sure it felt like a good size. I just wanted to test it really quick. And just kind of walk around and actually get a feel for how the map felt. And it felt pretty good. So I was like, all right. I was going to do kind of this ridged area over there, and I ultimately decided just to do trees down there. Just kind of use trees for all the separation. It just seemed a little bit easier. And then I thought, I want to just do trees at the bottom too. I don't want the ocean kind of going all the way around, or lake or whatever that is. I did not really end up adding anything down here. It's just kind of a blank level pretty much, but it does kind of go to the left and to the right. And my plan right now is, you're going to kind of wake up in the village or whatever, and, something's wrong. And you got to go down here to go get a sword before you can really do anything. And I was thinking maybe this bottom left map, I would just have kind of a little maze, and then you just at the end of the maze you get the sword, but you gotta, I don't know, maybe dodge some slimes or something like that. You can't really defend yourself, but then you get the sword and you can get the slimes. And then I did learn that it's good to line up the trees ahead of time. So if you already have trees that you need to line up with, you should just start with those trees, because I did end up kind of moving stuff around. And I think this is at the point where I was like, oh yeah, I'm not even going to be able to see the top of these trees um, on that map in the middle left. So I ended up just raising them up a little bit just so you can actually, you know, see a layer of trees, even if you have the HUD. And I think it's fine if it doesn't perfectly match up when you switch levels. I was just kind of careful to make sure that all the paths were pretty straight, because you don't want a situation where you walk into a level and you're basically inside a tree or you're just in a weird spot because the trigger was, in a spot that kind of messed you up. Some of these triggers, I will have it going to the same, X coordinate or Y coordinate. Some of them, if they're small, you don't really have to, worry about that. And I think right here, I was just redoing the grass because I just realized I didn't put any flowers on the grass and I thought that would look a lot better. So I ended up just kind of redoing all of it. And I just changed some of the, probabilities for the flowers. And then here I try to make the water look a little more natural. I think it worked out pretty good. And something I forgot to mention is that I actually took that tile map that I bought on Itch and I actually converted it to the Game Boy Colors. And I think I want to do that because I want to just do all of my palettes manually. You could use the color version, and Game Boy Studio can just pick up those colors. So basically, it'll just automatically do the palettes. I'm not sure that's the most efficient way to do it. I think it does work, but I just want to kind of set up my own palettes anyway, and kind of have kind of an overarching color theme inside the whole game. So hopefully I can actually do that. I'm not actually very good with colors, but I think just, starting with just the normal Game Boy colors will help me be able to just choose exactly what colors I want and what palettes for whichever section. And this is the converter site that I used, gameboy.prodigal.dev. It worked pretty good. It just uploaded and, make sure you set your width and height to whatever your actual image is. Otherwise, it'll literally set it to this actual resolution. I think you can just click use the original resolution. And I do want to jump into GB Studio, but first there is a pretty cool thing that was included with Tiled. So it's this TMX rasterizer. And basically it just combines all of your images, in your levels. If you have a world that you built, it just kind of takes a picture of all of them at once. And you can do a pretty cool thing with this just depending on how many tiles are in that image. If there's too many tiles, then you just, you can't really use it. But there's something called a common tile set. And if you have a common tile set, you can actually set it up to instantly load the level. So instead of having a transition, it just goes bloop and you're just in the level like immediately, which is pretty cool. So let me kind of show you how that works. So there's a lot of options for this and you can look it up online, but basically you just do, you go to program files /tiled, wherever your tiled program was installed. And this is all in command prompt, on Windows. And then you do TMX rasterizer and then space and then the whole file path of your world. So just, find that actual world file that you saved. And then you do a whole file path of what you want to call your map. So if I go do that, I'll just call this map 6. I've done it a couple times and just press enter. It should work. And there are options, like I said, if you look on the actual, if you just search for TMX rasterizer on Tiled on their website, I'm sure you can find that. So let me actually look at that picture that it made. So yeah, this is the image. So it just literally made just one giant PNG of all of the world files. And what I'm going to do with this is, not right now, but eventually I will shrink it down. I might actually try to use the common tile set just to see if that works. But I will shrink it down and I'm going to try to make like a map, where you press start or select and it like pops up with a map. And basically I'm just going to like shrink this down and then just probably change a little bit of the style on the map. And then, kind of use that in game. So just having this, a picture of all those levels that I just did is really nice. So yeah, that's a pretty useful thing. So I'm just going to close that, and then I'm going to go into GB Studio and open my project here. And okay, here's our game. So let's start adding those maps. So I think to keep it kind of simple, I'm just not going to use these levels that I've already kind of created. I'll just leave them as they are. I might use this dungeon later because I've already kind of built a little bit of it. Um, but I'm just going to do add scene and just click. And I think I actually need to, yeah, I need to go back to tiled and just save all those, go to file, export. So I'm going to do that really quick and then I'll be right back so they kind of show up in this list. Okay, I think I exported all those. So I'm going to click on that one again. And yeah, I will just start in the top left. So I think that's village 3. Uh, Kind of in the top left up there. You can see it's using some weird palette, but I am going to go through all the palettes and kind of update them. I kind of want it to look more, I don't know, pastel kind of colored. So yeah, we'll just see how that works. I will add an event here because I'm gonna just copy this and I'll just do I think it's called, yeah, scene start. I added a script called scene start. So that's the one that has, it has activate HUD. I think activate HUD also has the update HUD, and then it also has the sword button. So yeah, if I go to activate HUD, you can see it also calls update HUD, which is great. And then it's got the sword button. That I've got right there. And I might actually change this sword a little bit. Um, we're just gonna see. I'm gonna mess around with it a little bit. I'll let you guys know if I do end up changing it. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna actually rename this. So I just call these like scene 1 and scene 2, but I'm just gonna say, yeah, village. I'll just call it top left. That sounds pretty good. I think I named the actual one like Village 3 or something like that, but I'm just going to copy it and paste it. And I will try to line it up with this other one. And I'm going to change this one. Oh, and also right now it's doing top down 2D, which is really not great because all the maps I'm adding are going to not let me go diagonal, and I'm going to have all sorts of other problems. So I'm going to change it to adventure, change that to adventure. And there's actually a default if you go into, I think it might be settings, scene types. Yeah, default scene type. So you can just change that to adventure. It's probably for the best. So I will just go back to Game World. And so I've got, yeah, village top left, village top left. I'll just say village top. I think it's, yeah, top right. That sounds good. And then I'm going to change that background to the actual village top right, which I believe is maybe village 2. Is that right? Oh, yeah, there we go. Yeah, so that looks pretty good. I wish I could zoom out just a little bit. It seems like, okay, maybe, okay, yeah, 50% looks good. I guess the control scroll wheel just does 100 to 25. Yeah, I think you can just do 50. Okay, so village top right, and I guess I'll just go ahead and add that other one. So this is adventure. It's doing the screen start or scene start. That's great. I'm going to copy that, paste that, and kind of line that up. And I will call this forest top and change that to actually be the forest, which I think is this one. Yeah, I think that's the forest top. And then I will copy this again and paste it again. And it'll hopefully let me scroll down. And maybe that's a good reason to zoom out so much. Okay. So village top left, I'm going to call this village left and change that to village 4. There we go. Looks pretty good. I think there might be a way to hide these names to make it so you can tell that it's lined up, perfectly and everything. I'm not sure exactly how. And also, I don't know why it's not perfectly lining up. Hopefully, that's not an issue. Um, so, village left, copy that, paste it again. Call that village right. And I think it's just village 1. That looks pretty good. And I'm going to copy this forest and then just paste it here. Forest middle. Just forest 1. Beautiful. And paste that again. Okay. Forest bottom. I think that's forest 3. Looks pretty good. Village right. Call this village bottom right. And that's a village like 4 or 5. Yeah, 5. And then this must be village 6 over here. Village bottom left. And oh gosh, yeah. So the player sprite sheet is set to actor animated. So I'll just need to fix that and all those. No big deal. Change this one though to forest. Oh wait, village 6. That's right. Okay, perfect. So yeah, I'll just go ahead and change all those, I think, to player. Okay. And yeah, I bet there is a script I can actually call, but it's probably better just to have it set in this little drop down here. Set that all to player. I don't think there's anything obvious that I'm missing. I mean, only time will tell, right? Player, player, and player. That looks great. So now I am going to just kind of right click on this and just do set as starting scene. So when I start the actual game, it'll use whatever I just, set as the starting scene. That way I don't get stuck in my old levels that I was messing with. And here we go. It's our beautiful little village. You can walk down and nothing happens because we haven't added anything. But eventually, you will be able to walk left. And from here, yeah, you can walk every direction, actually. So we're going to add that pretty soon. Maybe I will just, yeah, I think I want to work on the palettes first. I think that's what I'm going to do first. So yeah, to set up my palettes, I'm going to go, you guessed it, to palettes. And yeah, I just spent a bunch of time messing with palettes, so I ended up changing all my palettes to something that I like. So to edit a palette, just select it, and then you have 4 different colors from lightest to darkest. And you can click on each of these. You can either, slide this around, or you can just enter a code down here. And I'm going to show you guys all the codes that I used. Obviously, you can use whatever colors you want. I am going to leave the default UI alone for now, and I will, mess with that later probably. But basically, I have the default 1 through 6, and then I'm also going to use the palette 7. So if I click on one of these, I can just enter a code here and it'll automatically update. So just make sure you've got the correct one selected. And for all my palettes, this is what I use. So if you want to use the same palettes, you can pause it. But basically the lightest color, and this is going to be mostly for the overworld. I might, I think for like each dungeon, I'm going to have its own palette inside the dungeon. But basically all these lightest colors are the grass colors. So they're all the same, so that they can match up. So if I want to make, a rock a different color, I can just use one of these palettes, and the grass around the rock is still going to be the same color, which is nice. There might be better ways to do this. I'm not sure, but these are the colors that I used. And just a word of caution. So I'm going to switch away from this now. So Again, if you want to copy these, you can pause it. But if you um, copy a color, like actually let's just say I copy this color, I'll copy that. If I select this and paste it, it's actually going to be a different color. So you can see it changed the color down here. I'm not sure exactly. It might be a bug or something like that. Let me actually, yeah, so I'll just paste it down here again to fix that. It might be a bug, but if you select this one and copy it, and then you go back here, like I could just paste that right here. So it's a totally different color, totally different value. So I'm not sure exactly, how that works, if it's some kind of different system or something like that. But the color you should be using is down here, because if you copy this and then, or if you copy this and paste it, then copy it again and paste it, for some reason it just changes, when you do that. So I'm not sure exactly how that works, but just setting the color down here should work best, I think. So just make sure you're not pasting onto here, because then, I don't know, sometimes it changes and I don't know what's going on. So yeah, that's kind of how I set up my palettes. So now I'm going to go back to the actual game world. And I've already actually done this one, but for each of your levels, and this is one reason I did the default, 1 through 6. That's going to be kind of the default here over in the background palettes. So I have already modified this one to have palette 7 and then default UI. If I go to one of the levels that I have not messed with yet, let me see, like I definitely haven't touched this one. So if I go down here, this is actually going to be using the default for the actual, like this GB Studio. So, and these might be the palettes that I actually set up manually, but you can set up these defaults. And if you haven't touched a level yet, it should update the defaults. So if I go to settings and go to palettes, which is in color options. Yeah, it's right here. So these are the defaults. So I'm actually just going to reset these to default 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then this one I'm going to change to palette 7. And then it's default UI for the last one. So now if I go back to my game world, so you can see that default 1 kind of took over, and that's kind of what I want. This default BG1, I want it to be kind of the main, green kind of look for most of these levels. And you might get, you might get to a point where you have like a swamp or you have like a different biome, and you just want to change kind of the defaults. So for each of those scenes, you'd just want to come here and just change this. So like if I wanted this to be, more of a darker, I might even do that for this kind of a darker forest kind of look. I could just change this one and it'll just kind of by default, since the whole scene is using this BG or this first kind of entry here, if I change this, it'll just kind of overwrite kind of the default for that scene. But I'm going to switch that back. And then for each of these trees, so I want these trees to kind of have like a brown trunk. So for that, I'm going to click on that colorize button. And I think I use this palette too. And let me just do that. Yeah. So I can either just like do individual trees, or I could probably just do it all the way across, honestly, since I've got the same grass color. Just kind of hold shift and click. And so, yeah, just kind of colorizing these tree trunks, make them look very beautiful and whatnot. Okay. Great. And this is manual colorization. If you had, and I converted everything to just the the Game Boy Colors, or the regular, old Game Boy Colors. If you had used a sprite sheet that already had colors and it was set up with no more than 4 colors per, per 8 by 8 tile, then you can actually do the automatic coloring. I think it's this auto color button right here. I don't know what would happen if I pressed it now. Um, yeah, so it looks like it just kind of reset the colors and made its own palette and just kind of automatically colorized it. I think you only want to do that if you already are using like a colorized PNG file. So let me actually undo that, Control Z. Since I'm kind of manually coloring all this stuff, I don't want to use auto color, but that would be an easier solution if you don't want to go, manually changing all this stuff. You could just do auto color, and I don't think there's any downsides. I know there's a way to have a common tile set, and I think the auto coloring kind of makes that do some flickering from videos I've seen. Um, so that's just something to kind of keep in mind. Um, and I'll kind of show you guys that auto palette thing. I'm actually going to just stop talking here and just kind of quickly colorize all this stuff. And yeah, I think I had come through here and changed this scene's colorization a little bit. Let me change this to palette 7. That looks pretty good. And I'm not sure what palette I'm using on here. I think it was one of the older ones. Um, but yeah, let me just make that match up with um, those tiles up there. Yeah, I think maybe my palette 6. Oh, yeah, it has a slightly different color. Not sure what I did there. Let me fix that. I think maybe 5 also has that problem. And that might have been from copying and pasting. Nope, that still has the same color. But yeah, let me just copy that, copy that. Make sure these all actually have the same color. That would be nice. Okay, let me just go through all the lightest. I just want, the actual grass colors to match up. Okay, great. Okay, let's start connecting our maps together. So I'm going to just connect this to this right here. So to do that, you need to use triggers like we used in that other map. So I'm going to do new trigger, and then you just kind of draw it. So I think all the way on the edge. For the bottom ones, I'm actually going to do it one tile up from the bottom because we have our HUD. So it might be better to do that. We'll just see. So yeah, put a trigger there, and I'm going to do add event for on enter. Just search for scene. And I will do change scene. Okay, and for some reason it defaults to that other scene over there, but I'm just going to pick it right here. So forest bottom. Wait, no, not forest bottom. Forest middle. So forest middle, and it'll default kind of to the top over there. And then you want to rotate it, so make it face to the right. And that should be pretty good. And then I think if I just copy that, I think I can copy that trigger maybe. Um, let me see if I can copy the trigger. Okay, yeah, so I can copy the trigger, Control C, and then you press Control V, and then you just click wherever you want to add it. So let me undo that. So I just need to change this trigger to go, yeah, since I had it selected, I can just move it to over there and just put it right up against there again. And then instead of facing right, make it face left. So now we can just test that really quick. And I will right click here and just set as starting scene, just in case you had moved it or anything like that. So yeah, if I go to the right, then it should use the trigger and go to that scene over there. And you can see right now we've got the fading. There is potentially a way you can get around that if you haven't used too many unique tiles. You can actually use what's called a common tile set. So just to show you guys kind of how that works, it might not work if you have too complicated of a map. But you remember that map that we made with the command prompt? We made that world map 6.png. So I copied that to my tile sets folder in my GB Studio project. And if you have it in your tile sets folder, then potentially you could use it as a common tile set. And it will only work if you don't have, more than a certain number of unique tiles. And there is a way to increase the number of unique tiles you can use, and that's if you do only color mode. So GB Studio has like 3 modes. If you go to settings, it's got monochrome, which is just the old style Game Boy. Then you've got color plus monochrome. And so that would work in an old Game Boy game as well as, color and pocket. But then if you do color only, you can't play it in an old, like original Game Boy. But it does increase the available number of unique tiles you can have, which is pretty nice. And I figure I'm just going to do that just to make my life a little bit easier. I'm sorry if you're a monochrome fan, but if you do color only, you just get more tiles. So it just makes your life easier. So if I go back to the game, let me actually close this. If you click on the actual trigger, you can see there's different speed options. So I could, potentially do faster, and you can do faster even if you don't have a common tile set, but you can't do instant. So you can see it's going to be a little bit faster, which, that's still pretty good, just having this, having this level change. That's fine, honestly. But if you have a common tile set, it can be even faster, which is cool. So I can just close that. And for this scene, so you have a common tile set option right here. So if you turn that on, then this is going to look in your tile sets folder. So I'm just going to use that map that we made, an Action 1 World Map 6. And like I said, it depends on how many unique tile sets you have. If I set common tile set for this one as well, so now they're both set to the same common tile set. And then I'm going to change both of their speeds to instant for fade speed right there. And then if I run the game again, so now if I go over here, so you can see it's even faster. So instead of any fade at all, it just kind of instantly, switches to the level, which is pretty nice. And again, if your overworld is too complicated, I wouldn't worry about it. It might be good for like a dungeon or something like that. If you just, have a common tile set, more likely in the dungeon, you won't be using as many tiles as like an overworld. But that's just one neat feature if you haven't used too many unique tiles. And if you don't have a common tile set up and you do instant, you can see you can see it still does it instantly, but it just has to unload everything, from that VRAM and reload all the tiles for the new map. So again, like I said, it's a cool option. Um, if I didn't have one, I would probably just want to do like a fade speed, and run that again. And so now it's got that white screen while it's loading all the tiles from the new map. So, that's an option. It's pretty cool. Okay, so now, and I'm actually gonna, I think, move that down one. I think it'll look a little better. Um, but I'm going to do the trigger on the top here that goes to this screen up here. So I'm gonna do add trigger, and I'll just do that. And I haven't added any, collision blocks or anything like that. But right now, I just kind of want to set up the triggers so you can walk, from scene to scene. This one is going to be change scene, and I'll do village top right. That looks good. And I will make it, so depending on what I do, I might move that later, but I'll just set the Y to right there. Let's see. So I'm definitely, you can't see the bottom here because of our HUD. So yeah, I think probably this location will be good, and I'll just put the other trigger just right, kind of right there. So what you want to do, this trigger, like no matter where you are, even if you enter over here, it's just gonna move the player over there. So what you actually want to do is set a global variable first. So um, we've got player X and player Y right here. We've already got those set up for the global variables. So probably I should just make a script that sets those. I think we were already using them on maybe one of the other enemies or something like that. But I think for now, I'm going to say I'm just going to set player X and player Y. So right before I change scene, I'm going to insert event before. And I think it's, if I just search for position, yeah, store actor position in variables. So I'm going to do player, and that's going to go to player X and player Y. Oops, not got key one. Player Y. So player X and player Y, it's going to store those. And I'm actually going to, yeah, I could just make this a script, and then I won't have to, go here and, manually set player X and player Y. I mean, I could copy this event to other scenes as well. But if I just make a script, I'm just going to copy event and do script 5. I'll say store player X and Y. Okay. And then I will just paste that here. So the actor is going to be player. And luckily, I think player is just something you can automatically pick. Otherwise, we would have to pass in the actual actor that we wanted to store. But yeah, I'll just do store player position, player X and player Y. So yeah, store player. And if I go back to this right here, instead of this one, I could just do insert event before, and I could just search for store player, call script, store player X and Y. Okay, so now that's going to run, pretty much every time before I change scenes using one of these, one of these types of triggers right here. So I think the best way to do this is just set the X before you even go into the scene. Like if you have your logic on your scene, then you run into the problem where the instant fade does not really work because your character starts somewhere else and then gets moved later. So if I just set the X right here, variable, and I'll just do player X. So right before change scene, it stored the player X in that player X. And then the Y, you probably just want to set that, for each scene. And then press that run button. And so now if I am way over here and I go up, I'm in the right spot. So that's pretty nice. So now we just need to kind of reproduce that for the other direction. And I think I can just copy this whole trigger, come over here. I don't know what I just copied. It's trying to paste what looks like a scene. Um, I wonder if I need to, okay, here we go. So I'm gonna do that there. And then this is gonna go village right. Okay. And the Y, I actually want to change that. So it's not letting me move it, left or right, because it's using a variable for that. So it's kind of smart. It knows you can't actually change it here because it's going to be using that variable. So, and let's see, is it still on instant? Okay. Yeah, I switched these back to use that common tile set. And yeah, so now it should work pretty much the same. And actually, I need to change the direction to down. And then let's just try that out. So if I come here, I can walk up over here. That works beautifully. If I walk down, it works just the same. And I can just kind of meander about my whole level. Obviously, if I go in the trees, it's not currently blocked, so that doesn't work. So yeah, that pretty much works about as perfectly as you could imagine. Um, yeah, I think that's in the right spot. If I try it on the path, then I am, yeah, pretty much right on the path. I think what it does is it rounds to the nearest like whole number. So it rounds to the nearest basically 8 by 8 tile. So you might end up, slightly over from where you think you should be, but it should pretty much be the right location. I don't think there's any way to get it exactly like pixel perfect, but that would be pretty cool. There might actually be a way, but I bet it's really complicated. So yeah, that's kind of how that triggering works. I think I'm just going to go ahead and add all the other triggers. Let me actually do this one really quick. Actually, I'm going to do this one right here. So this really tall one, I will just insert a trigger and do that one all the way down. I'm just going to copy this whole script. So just copy script and just paste it there. Replace script. So it's going to store the X and the Y, but this time we're just going to use the Y. Um, so it's going to go to village left, and I'm going to change the X for an actual number, and then the Y is going to be the variable. So that's going to be player Y. And I'm also going to make it face left. And then I'm going to copy that whole trigger. So let me go over here, Control C, come over here, Control V. And then I'm going to change a couple things, make it face right, go to village right. And the X will probably be a little bit to the left. Yeah, that should be pretty good. So yeah, X1. Let's just run that and see what happens. But if I change that to use the common tile set, I think this one's already using it. And maybe I'll spawn a little bit closer to it, run that again. And so now, yeah, that does load a lot faster. And it doesn't have any weird like tile kind of problems. So yeah, that looks pretty good to me. So I'm just going to basically repeat all that. So I'm probably just going to end up copying just copying the triggers, the left triggers, and then copying the big, up and down triggers, and just kind of pasting them wherever they go, and then changing all the information. It's probably the easiest way to do that. I did notice, I don't know if you can resize this trigger very easily, but you could just kind of change the height over here when you select the trigger. So that might be the easiest solution there. And yeah, I just noticed with that one, it looks like I need to, yeah, probably bring this up one. It was just, if you run into that where it instantly changes back, that means you probably landed on the trigger. Okay, that looks pretty good. Seems to be working pretty good. And I'll probably add this one to the common tile set. Okay, I think I have everything all hooked up. And a good way to just double check is just kind of look at, where those lines are going, if they kind of make sense. And you can see we're setting the Y here manually, so they're not going to be perfect. But yeah, I went ahead and, instead of just putting them in the middle, I just let them choose by, changing their own Y. For a couple of them, like these little small ones where there's only two tiles anyway, um, I just set it so just set it manually instead of using the variable. But I think, giving, setting it by the Y value is pretty nice. It makes the game feel, a little bit nicer in my opinion. So yeah, let me try all these out. And I'm just going to walk kind of to each section and just kind of test out that it's actually working. Would be, ideal. Yeah, I don't have a, I don't have a connection here, so I almost got all of them. Okay, let me try all of the connections now. Okay, now you can walk up here. That's beautiful. And okay, oh yeah, these I had to manually add them. I couldn't copy them for some reason, so they did not switch to instant. And just walk up there. You can see I don't have any collision yet, and that's okay. So that works pretty good. Go back down here. And I'm going to test the forest. Okay, that one is not set to instant. I'll switch those back. And let me just check to see if this actually works. Okay, looks good. I don't think I can go anywhere else actually up there. Then I'm going to check this one down here. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. And I think this is going to be kind of the first dungeon, this little tree. It should be kind of an easy little dungeon. That's at least my current thought. And, you might be able to see it if you walk over here and say, oh, what's over there? I want to go check it out. But my idea is that you'll need the sword to actually get over there. I'm going to add some bushes and stuff. So let's see. I'm going to test this. This seems to work pretty good. And yeah, my idea was to kind of put the sword in here in the forest. Just have to walk to it. And yeah, that's kind of my current plan. It all seems to work. It all seems to be connected together, which is great. So yeah, let's start talking about making a map. So in my game, when I press select, I want the map to open so you can see the map, the world map. And ideally, you have a little marker that shows where you currently are on the map. And then also, I want the map to be so big that you have to kind of move around to see the entire map. I could, try to make it like one screen, but you don't really get that much detail when you make the map one screen. To do that, I've already got this that I exported with that TMX rasterizer from the world and tiled. And I want this to just be part of the world. So, like you're going to do all this stuff in here, you're going to beat this dungeon, blah, blah, blah. And then eventually you'll go out and, go explore the rest of the game. For example, I'm not sure I'm going to do the rest of the game in this tutorial, but I do want to set up the world map so that it actually works. And so to do that, obviously this is way too big, for the map, because if you go to the map right now, then it'll just be kind of the same size as the actual screen and you'll just be scrolling around. So there's a couple things I can do. First, I'm going to resize the image. So image, and this is in GIMP, which is free. So image, scale image, and you want to probably set interpolation to none. That way it doesn't add a bunch of extra colors. Because right now these are just the Game Boy colors that I have here. You could always convert it later to the Game Boy colors. There's like a converter online. So yeah, with this, I wanted about 1/8 of the current size. So there's a couple ways you can do that. I can either resize it directly to 12.5%. That'll be 1/8. And so this will be, just imagine that that's the actual map and that's kind of how it looks. Depending on what order you resize in. So if I go back to the full size, I do scale image, and you'll notice I also have interpolation on none. If you do it with interpolation, then it'll end up just adding a bunch of extra colors. So you can see there, it looks a little better, but these are all like non-standard, Game Boy colors, so it'll just end up causing problems. So make sure you do interpolation off. But if I do, let me turn that back off to none. And if I do, for instance, 50% first, scale that down. And then I go image, scale image, and scale down, 50% from that. So this is now 1/4 size. And then I do image, scale, 50%, like that. You can see the colors look a little bit different. So just kind of play around with that. You also obviously could draw your own map, and just resizing like this will give you kind of a good idea, what to draw. I'm not actually going to do that, but if I was going to do that, I would do, new layer, and then I would just draw on top of that layer. So obviously you would use all of your artistic skills. So like if I just select that color and yeah, drawing on this layer, I could draw like the trees or whatever. I'm just using the pencil tool, and then I could fill that in, so then eventually you could just hide that, the actual map that you scaled down, and then you would just have like your own kind of hand-drawn map. So that's, definitely another option you've got. I would just caution to be aware of, the unique tiles, because, if your map ends up being a lot bigger, if you got to cover the whole world, all of the unique tiles will count against you. It shouldn't really matter if you've got a lot of really similar ones. Like, for instance, all of these forest ones facing right, they're all the same. And that's a good thing about dividing, exactly by 8. These left forest ones are all the same, and I think they're actually the exact same as these over here. So that's kind of a bonus right there, for resizing exactly. The only thing is, it won't go exactly to 8 down here. This background is exactly 8, divisible by 8 across, but down here it's not. We might have to divide by something else to get it to be even down here, or maybe it just won't ever be even. I'm not really sure, but yeah, I'm sure it would, because it's 20 across and like 18 down. So, there's probably some way to do it, but since we're adding the rest of our map anyway, we don't really need to worry about that. And so once you have your map image, and do keep in mind also, we will be colorizing this later, so you might want to kind of keep that in mind. For instance, this little house, it's crossing two tiles. So we'd have to color both of these tiles. But then also this path is on the tile. So these would basically have to share a palette. So kind of keep that in mind. I'm actually going to just delete that and just fill it in with this color right here. And I made a bunch of changes on another version of this map that I'll kind of show you guys here in a few seconds. I kind of went through and moved a lot of these, to different kind of in the middle of a tile. And some of the houses I made kind of look identical, and I got rid of a lot of the extra little just random dots around. I don't really need that on a map, And even these, I think I left these on, but you could, get rid of those if you wanted to. So let me show you the actual map that I created. So this, I just found some kind of scroll or something, and I ended up just stretching out the actual dimensions so it actually fit. I think this map is, it's like 320 pixels across and 288 down. So it should be, several screens, maybe just two screens, I'm not sure. But then I have to look at what size these actual maps are. So this map is, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So it's like 13 and a half. So it's not going to be perfectly matched up, with these 8x8 tiles, but we can kind of work around that. And just looking at a map, you'll have a pretty good idea of where you are. Just if the indicator is kind of close, it doesn't have to match up perfectly to it. But for the indicator itself, I just kind of made this in GIMP. So, and it is animated, so I just put two right next to each other. So this one, and then it just kind of moves in by a pixel for this one, and then it just kind of flashes back and forth. And I did notice with the animations, you want to make sure that these are divisible by 16. So I used 5 tiles tall previously, and it really did not work. It just kept like clipping back down. I think it expects things to be divisible by 16. The side to side is divisible by 16, like total, but there's only 5 across on each frame. So I guess that didn't really matter. But if it's not divisible by 16 vertically, you just have some weird issues. So just kind of keep that in mind. And I use the regular sprite colors, from GB Studio. And so I just, kind of drew these. So basically, this is going to show up on the map wherever you are and just kind of almost look like it's just kind of blinking like, hey, that's where you currently are, whoop-de-doo. And then you're also going to be able to kind of move around the map and see other parts of the map. So yeah, let's go ahead and kind of, once you've got your map kind of set up, however you want it, and obviously you don't even need a border if you don't want one. You can draw your own border or just figure out, something else for your border. And then you just save that as just a PNG and put it in your backgrounds folder. So I'm actually going to export this, export as world map.png. I don't think I have a world map.png. Okay, export that. And then it asks me if I really, really want to export it. So I will export it. And then, let's go back to GB Studio. So let's go ahead and add a new scene. So right now we've got our main kind of thing we built in tiled, the little village in the forest. I'm going to add a scene up here. So I'll just add new scene, blam, and for the actual thing, I'm going to choose that map, the world map. So world map, and that is scene 12. And so you can see I've got my beautiful map. Yours probably looks different if you've, been building kind of a different game. So we need to, basically there's 2 ways you could do it in theory. So GB Studio has a save system built in. So you could, when you press select, just have it automatically save the game. And then when you press select in here to get back out of the map, you just load that save. And that is one way to do it. The nice thing with that is that it saves, the whole state of the game. So if there was like an enemy, about to attack you or something like that, it would save that. I'm going to do it a slightly different way. I'm going to just switch the scene to the map, and then in the map you can press select and it'll load the screen back up. So a couple things need to happen here. So first I'm going to click on this scene, and I will add this to every scene, the map button and everything. But and I'm going to add some more stuff later, but right now let's just get to that scene and then we can switch back. So let's just get that working. So I will just click on the scene and go to the on init, and I'm going to add insert event, and I'll do attach script a button, and I will say select. So let's just say on pressing the select button, we can change scene, and I will choose scene 12, which is that map. And I'm actually going to rename that. So I'll just call this world map scene. It's a good name for it. And so now when you press select, you change to world map scene. So I will just go ahead and just run that. Okay, and when I run that, I can just press shift, which is my keyboard key for the select button. And you can see I go to the map. It's beautiful. I am a giant arrow, which is okay. But this is actually kind of the controls I'm going to have to kind of explore the map. I'm just going to have an invisible character, but that'll be just in a little while. First, I need to send some variables to this so we can put that marker on this map. So I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to make two global variables. So in this scene, I'm going to go on initialize, and yeah, right now we're just sending the player to X0 and Y0. We'll probably change that later. I'm going to insert event before, and I'm going to do set variable to value, and I'm going to make a, let's see, variable 7. I'll call this map X, and I'm going to just copy this event, copy event, paste event after, and I'll do probably variable 8. Yeah, map Y. Okay, so basically when you enter this level, it's going to set the map coordinates to a certain tile value. So this is where I'm going to send that little blinky rectangle with the, kind of to mark where you are on the map. So I'm going to go back to the map, which is right here. And let's say I want it to be kind of in this little area right here. So I would probably say X6, Y6, since you can see that's the kind of location right there. Possibly X6, Y5. Yeah, maybe X6, Y5. We'll just try that for now. So yeah, X6, Y5. So whenever you enter this, that overworld, it's going to set that. And I'm not going to set it when you go into a building or anything like that, because these buildings are all part of the overworld map, and that's kind of the only map we're tracking right now. So map X and YX are now set to that. So then when you get to, this level, what I want to have is an actual actor. So I'm going to add an actor right there. And I might have moved map marker there. Let's see. I think this is an old, I think that's an old version of the map marker I had. Let me go ahead and move the actual map marker that I made. So yeah, I'm exporting this one that I had earlier, And yeah, I'll call that map marker 2. I think I might have just exported to the wrong file or the wrong folder. So yeah, I'll go ahead and export that. So now that should be an option if I go down here. Yeah, map marker 2. So there's map marker 2, and you can see it doesn't look great. We actually need to set up that sprite. So I'm going to go back to sprites and choose map marker 2. And right now it is like 4x4, but it actually needs to be 5x6. So canvas size, I think 40 by 48. Yeah, 8 times 6, 48. So yeah, I will just set it to 40 by 48 and see it looks a little messed up there. It makes me think I should have made it, 48 by 48. But let's just see how this works. Or maybe, so let me just grab this. I'm going to just take all of this and put it right there. Beautiful. So that'll be for one frame. And then the second frame is going to be right here. And I could change the colors here if I wanted to. But I definitely do want to set this as just fixed direction. So I don't want, any movement, like it's not going to turn left or anything like that. So animation type fixed direction, and the like the canvas origin or something like that. Maybe I should just move it. Oops. Just kind of move it, to 0, 0. And then that will be the location. So basically the location is just going to be the top left corner. And then this image will just show, to the bottom right of it. So if I go back to Game World, okay, yeah. So now that looks pretty good. And if I move it to, what did I say, 6, 6 or something, 6, 6, 5, maybe, then that actually looks pretty good. So I'm going to move it kind of to the side just to kind of prove that our map marker moving thing actually works. So I'm going to set this set position, set actor position of itself, and I'm going to do variables here, variables, and of course I'm going to do map X and map Y. So let me just, okay, press that. Okay, and it tells us that we are in that location, which I think is correct. So now to get back, we can't actually get back out of here. We're kind of stuck in the map because I didn't add a button to get back out. So what we need to do is go back to the map we just came from. We need to actually add something here. So before we change the scene, we need to insert event before. And I think you can just search for stack, store current scene on stack. So after we store the current scene on the stack, then we're going to restore previous scene from stack. So basically it's just kind of like a temporary holding place for our scene. And then we're going to restore it from that stack. So yeah, store current scene to stack, then we change it, and then we don't. So in here, we don't need logic like, well, if you came from the village, then you have to go back to the village. We just have to say, go back to whatever's on the stack, basically. So if I believe I can say on initialize for this whole scene and just add event, attach button script, attach script to button, and I'll say select. So on press, again, I'll just search for stack and restore first scene from stack. So that looks pretty good. And I will just press the run button, press shift. It's beautiful. Press shift again. And you can see it just kind of goes back and forth. If you move around, if I move to on top of this water, you can see it restores me back to where I was. Now, if you have any enemies or anything like that, you will need to set up some logic to actually track them. So like if I have 2 enemies in the scene, then I added to the stack and then restored it, it would bring back those enemies just at their default locations. So later on, I will go through and make some changes to improve that. Let me just do one more scene here. I'll just do, yeah, maybe this scene right here. And I'll do the same thing. So I probably want to add this to I want to just call this map script on every scene. So I want to just make a script over here. So I'm going to just do new script, and a cool name could be like map script. Sounds pretty good. And on map script, I will copy attach script to select button, copy that whole event, and go back to map script. And then I will paste it. So now if I just call map script, let me actually delete this event here, attach script button, and I'll call the script. So insert event before, I'll just search for map script, which I just made. So that should function just the same. Let me just test that out really quick. Okay, I'm on the map. I press shift and go back. It works pretty good. So that map script is working. And another cool thing you can do is, so you've got this thing here, so every scene is going to need, set the map X and set the map Y. But you can actually set it up so you just fill it in on this map script. And so to do that, I'm going to go to the map script. And on the map script, before any of this attached script to select button stuff, I'm going to do insert event before and search for variable, and then variable set to value. And so when I do that, it's going to give me this like variable A up here. And I'm going to insert another event after the same thing. Actually, I can just copy this event. Just copy event and paste event after. And this one's going to be variable B. So we're going to pass in these numbers. So I'm going to call this past map X and past map Y. And then I'm going to, I'm not going to set these here. I'm going to set the other ones to the value of these. So we're going to pass these in. So I need to just find the real map X and the real map Y. And then instead of a value, I'm going to choose a variable and variable. Okay. And okay, this should be variable B. Okay, I guess, oh, you know what? I think when I removed these or changed them around, they disappeared from up here and got renamed. So I'll just, again, call that past map X and past map Y. Okay, so we're going to pass these and then set the global variables to be these values. So now if I go back to this scene, so I've got, and I'm going to change these to numbers, the past map X and past map Y. So we do need to pass those. If we don't, even if I set it here, it's going to call this script and then it's going to mess it up. So you'll see if I just run it right now. Right now it's just passing 0. So you can see it just passed 0 to both of those. Even though I set it here, it still passed 0 and just overrode it in that script because it just happened after this one. If I had, done this, the map equals 6 and 5 after this one, then it would have been fine. But so that means if I change it here, so 5 and, 6 for the X and then 5 for the Y. And if I run that again, now you can see if I press shift, then it actually fixes it to the correct position. So that's a good reminder. So I don't have to, add these events every single time I have a new screen or a new scene. I'll just call map script and then it'll be really obvious that I should actually pass those. So let's just try to add that to this one over here. So again, I've got the scene start. I'll just insert event before and search for my map script. Okay. And then number. And I think this one will be the same y value, I think, of 5, and maybe a map of x of 1. Let's just try that and kind of see how that looks. So if I'm on this map, it looks pretty good. If I move to this map, so now it has kind of this area selected. And so, yeah, I'm just going to set up all these scenes kind of like that. I think that's enough of, this kind of logic for now. You can just imagine me doing it for the rest of them, which I will do later. But I think for now, I'm going to actually look at the map, because right now the map is, kind of not that great. It's just, you spawn on the map and then you just kind of move around, and nothing's really going on with as far as the map goes. Like, you can go all the way up here, which is fine, I guess, but then if you're all the way over here and your character is invisible, then you won't really understand why it takes so long to move the map and look over at the rest of the world. And this world's pretty big. And another thing is, I want to hide the HUD, so I'll have to figure out how to turn that off. So let me just go to that map scene, and first things first, I think I'm going to just kind of give some minimum values for where the player can be. And then I'm going to set up like an actual collision, so the player can't walk past, a certain X or a certain Y value, basically to block in the camera. And I've tried a lot of things with GB Studio. I've tried, like actually physically moving the camera. I just have not had, that much luck with it. And it might be possible if you switch it away from adventure to like a point and click type thing. That actually might be pretty good for a map, because you can actually, use the cursor and kind of point at, a certain spot on the map if you want, a certain spot to have, a little dialogue that pops up when you look at it or something like that. So that would be pretty cool. But I think for now, I'm just going to kind of have the map pops up and it kind of, blinks where you are. And then you can just kind of look around on the map. So I think that's kind of what I want for this map. So I think by default, I'm going to have the player spawn at the actual the map location. So I'm going to just click on the main scene right here, and then on initialize. It's already got that. Going back to the other thing there, I'm going to insert event before and just set player location. No, set actor position. That's what I meant. Set actor position, player. And first I'm going to find that variable, and it'll be map X. And then I'm going to find that variable map Y. So that'll just set the player just to be right there. And like I said, the player is going to actually be invisible. So it's going to start right here, but it'll be invisible. So, if the actual map location is like way over here, then it'll just go ahead and start, nearby to where the actual player is. So that's kind of convenient. But when it spawns in, after it sets the X and Y, I want it to automatically be kind of pushed. You can see like where the map starts moving. So I want to kind of set up a barrier over here. So it just can't go, it can't go to the left over here, and it can't go up any further. It just goes up enough to see the edge of the map, basically. And then when you press left and right, then you can actually start moving, moving the map around. So that's kind of what I want to do. And I played around a little bit with, just I had like an update script that would just push the player to the right every time it tried to go to the left, and it ended up just getting kind of messy. So I think what I'm going to do is just kind of build the barriers where they should be, and then move the player just automatically. So let me first figure out where the barrier should actually be. So to do that, I'm going to just set my X to, I'll just set it to an actual number. So let me see, I'll say 10 and 10 right there. And so yeah, I'll just play that. So that doesn't look great. It looks like the top is kind of hidden a little. So maybe I'll do like Y8, try that. Because basically if it's all the way up here, then I want to be able to see the top of the screen. So yeah, let me just try that. I'll just put a barrier kind of right there. So X10, let's see. Okay, so it starts at 0. So if I do X10, let me actually just see what that looks like. So I'll just kind of try that. And so yeah, basically I want to be able to get all the way to the top and all the way to the left side. So I actually probably need to move that like that and maybe move that one down one. We'll just see. Okay, I closed it for some reason. Okay, so let's see. So I still need to go left a little bit. So let me just do that. Okay. Run that change. And yeah, so pretty much, okay. So I think a problem is the camera's got a little bit of, yeah, I think it's like a dead zone or something. So that would be a problem. I do want it to get all the way over, and then yeah, it pretty much starts. It starts moving. You don't have to hold it for more than like a half second before it starts moving. So I think that's probably good enough. But I could set the dead zone. So let me just insert event before camera, set camera property, camera dead zone X, and I will just copy event and paste it after camera dead zone Y. So if I just set the dead zones to 0, then when I press shift, then yeah, that actually moves a lot faster. So I think that is the right amount, but let me just test it just to make sure, because once I change the dead zone, who knows? Okay, actually, yeah, that looks perfect. So without the dead zone now, it's just instantly moving, which I think is great. Since this is going to be invisible, you don't really want I'm basically using the player to control the camera, which I think is probably the best solution, honestly. So now I just need to set up some like if statements. So first I'm going to set the player position, which I already did. I'm going to set it to the variables, and I'll do variable player, map X and map Y, not player Y, but map Y. So it's going to set to map X and map Y, and then I need to figure out how to do the limits on these. So there are some math expressions. So if I insert event after, someone actually commented on one of my videos that, you could have just used like a minimum and maximum. There's like minimum. Okay, I think I figured it out. So I can use this max expression right here. So you can see it just puts me perfectly there, even though the map X and map Y is right here. So it's going to choose the maximum value of either map X or 9 in this case. That's kind of where my that's where my collision starts right there. So I'm going to do the same thing with the bottom. So let me just kind of do that here. And Yeah, so I probably know it's going to be right there. But let me actually look and see what that looks like. I just want to set this up correctly. Okay. And I think it gets to the bottom and it might have a little bit extra space. Let me just put that right there. I'm also going to do a minimum after this. I don't think you can do it at the same time, but let me just try this. Okay, so yeah, that gets all the way to the bottom, and it might even have some extra room, so maybe I just need one more right there. And then I can just do that all the way across over to here, and then let's see. Oops. So, and I know that this one is going to be right there, so I'll just test that out and see if I need to move that. Okay, all the way over. All right, looks like I can go a little bit further. So let me just change that right there. I probably don't need to be closing that window every time, but that's okay. Bring that back. Okay. And yeah, it starts moving immediately. If I go up or down, that's great. And I think when I remove this HUD, then it'll actually show the bottom of the map, which will be great. And then I just need to do the same thing for the minimum. So to do the actual things, you have to set an expression right here. So I'm going to copy that. Let's see, copy event. So after this, paste event after, you set this to be expression, and then you just have min and max. So min, I'll do, oops, not high end, but so it's going to look at the minimum of either map X or in this case 9, but we need to change that to probably 29. So it'll look for this, if it's if it's less than 9, it'll change it to 9. And now if it's greater than 29, it'll just change it back to 29. And same thing with down here. This is Y26. So I can do, again, change that to minimum instead of max, and then 26. So now, yeah, it's going to be hard to test that, but I think it'll probably work, you know. And then, okay, so now that did not actually work. Let me think about this. I wonder if, oh, you know what? I think that's a problem. So this wasn't actually working before. It was just looking like it was working. But if you actually do a variable here, you have to actually click on it and actually switch it over to be the variable. And I'll tell you why this is not going to work as well. That's actually a logic problem. So if I go here, it's going to, yeah, that's 6, which means that it's actually going to be over here. And I don't want to be over there. I want to be on the other side of this. So I think what I should do is actually store the player position. So if I do this insert event before, between the two, store position in variables, I'm going to store, I'm just going to do local 0 and local 1. And then I'm going to compare. So after I, get scooted over to the right, then I don't want to use map X and map Y anymore. I want to use my new position. So my new position is going to be local 0 and local 1. So in that case, I should look at the minimum. Local, I need to do $, local 0, and then look at the minimum for $, local 1. So I think that should work pretty good. Let me just try that out. Okay, press shift. It's 6, but it got me right here. Perfect. And so now for um, the magic sauce, I just need to get rid of that dialog box. And yeah, so that's good to know. If your variables are not green and you can't actually click on them or it doesn't highlight them or anything like that, make sure you just type it and then actually click on that variable. Just typing, $, the variable name will not actually do anything. That's good to know. And yeah, the magic here is setting this to transparent. So if I set my player to transparent, then when I look at the map, then I can press shift and, oh, look, I'm on a map and I can move all around the map. Yeah, all of a sudden I'm realizing that I think I need to move that a little bit higher. Let's see. It could actually be the size of that. Yeah, it could be the size of that transparent. That transparent thing, I think, is 16 by 16 collision size. So that actually makes sense. So I need to just, I think just changing the um, actual collision would be the easiest solution instead of setting up like a new transparent guy that has the right collision size. Now, like I was saying, it's going to be amazing. Press shift. Oh, look, you can move around your map and you can see all the world that hasn't been drawn yet, but will soon be drawn. It's so beautiful. Wow. And look, you go back there and you can see it blinking because that's the location that you're currently on, which is pretty cool. And, I think if I do, if I select that, make sure you don't have the collision selected. If I select this guy and say, on update, keep running while off screen. Let me see if that actually makes him draw when he's kind of off screen, because that is a pretty big sprite, so I'm not sure if it'll actually work or not. Yeah, I think that. Yeah, I think that actually worked. So yeah, it is drawing it even though it's off screen, which is great. So then when I go back, it magically has the little thingy back over where I am. And if I test it, if I press shift to go over here, test it over here, you can see it moved. And I still can do the magical moving, moving around. And I think, yeah, so now I just want to turn off that HUD when I'm in the map. To hide that, if I go to activate HUD, you can see there is this really complicated thing. This is how I initially did the HUD in an earlier video. I think maybe video 2. If you want to hide it, you don't need to do anything like any extra stuff. You just have to do VM overlay. Instead of show, it's hide. So I'm just going to call that script in this actual scene. So if I just insert event before, just search gbvm script, and I'll just do VM overlay hide, and then I will try my map. So it looks like it hid the overlay, the little HUD. Now I can see that very beautiful bottom of my map. And, obviously if you had, more world and stuff like that, then it would look even cooler. But I think you guys probably get the idea. I know this was a pretty long video, but I made the whole overworld, and then I made the overworld map, and then I had a beautiful, beautiful little map. And I'm actually, just walking around this map right now, but it looks like I'm just moving the map around. It's amazing. So yeah, press shift, go back, and there you go. I think in the next video, let's see, what should I cover? I think I want to do that dungeon that I was talking about, kind of to the bottom right over here in the forest. Maybe, yeah, maybe I'll do the dungeon, or maybe I'll do the lead up to the dungeon. So, I want to add, yeah, maybe add some like people in the village that I can talk to, and some houses to go into, and, probably collision so you don't run into, or just walk over houses. It's not super realistic. Um, so yeah, that's kind of some of the stuff I'm thinking about for the next video. Let me know if you guys have any ideas or anything like that. Be sure to smash those all those YouTube buttons you see. Just any of them, honestly. I mean, I don't know what they do, but yeah, I'll see you guys next time.